Okay, let's take a look at coordination and response. Okay, coordination and response, human nervous system. Today's focus point will be on the brain, the white matter, and the gray matter. Okay, so we'll learn about white matter and gray matter, how they actually, why is it named white and why is it named gray. And then we'll be learning about the spinal cord. We'll be learning about the nerves and also the reflex action, the voluntary and reflex action. Okay, let's take a look at the mammalian brain. The mammalian brain is made up of membranes, or also known as the meninges. Meninges is a layer of tissue after the skull that protect the brain. The first layer is called the tough and thick outer layer, called the dura mater. The middle layer is called the arachnoid. The inner layer is pia mater. This one, dura mater, all this one is not in your syllabus. So it's just for information lah. So you don't have to sweat about it. Okay, cerebrum. Cerebrum compared to cerebellum. So take note here. Take note here. That's it. So we have cerebrum and cerebellum. They are quite similar to each other. Okay, they are our main region of brain. For human, our cerebrum is larger than cerebellum. But for most animal, their cerebellum is larger than cerebrum. Why? For human, the cerebrum is meant for logical thinking. Logical thinking, basically all those assessment of situation, all those calculation thinking, and yeah. So these are the function of cerebrum. Cerebellum, its function is to provide certain instinct, intuition, and everything. Basically, animals, they tend not to think that much. They don't learn about maths, they don't learn about physics and biology. They don't have to rely so much on their cerebrum. That's why their cerebrum is small. But they rely mainly on their instinct. They just automatically know what to do. Right? They see something, they see a flash, they automatically move towards it and eat. They see something that is not eatable, then probably they won't go and bite or something. It rely on their instinct, it's not logical thinking. So animal brain tend to have a larger cerebellum than cerebrum. Okay, so cerebrum is meant for logical thinking. See here, cerebrum, it coordinates the organ, control voluntary action, receive sensation, is the region of conscious thought and memory. It consists of two cerebral hemispheres. Two cerebral hemisphere means there are two sides of your brain. So if you look at the brain here, it is split in the middle. Split into left brain and right brain. Okay, it's split in the middle. Different parts of the cerebrum have different functions. Some area deal with sight, some area deal with speech, some area deal with aspect of personality. Okay, then we have the thalamus. Thalamus is somewhere here. Somewhere here. Okay, thalamus. Hypothalamus is also here. Hypothalamus is at the bottom of the thalamus. So we call it hypothalamus. Hypo means a little bit lower. Low in content. So thalamus is here, hypothalamus is below. Then we have the cerebellum, the little brain, coordinates the balancing of body. Okay, it is a region of instinct, contain two hemispheres also. Nearly 50% of all neurons in the brain are found in the cerebellum. It constitutes of only 10% of the total brain volume for human. Then we have the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, although is part of the brain, but it's actually the extreme end of the spinal cord. If you look closely, this is the spinal cord, and the extreme end of the spinal cord is the medulla oblongata. Okay, the spinal cord is like this, and then at the extreme end, it bulges out. The region where it bulges out is called the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata controls unconscious activities such as heartbeat, peristalsis, breathing. It connects the brain to the spinal cord. Okay, so these are the important points that you need to take note lah, that will be tested. Then this is the side view of the brain. Here you can see where the thalamus is, and the hypothalamus is at the bottom of the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland is at the bottom of the hypothalamus. So we have thalamus at the top most, followed by hypothalamus, and followed by the pituitary gland. Okay. Okay, next, let's take a look at white matter and gray matter. Both the brain and spinal cord contain two distinct regions called white matter and gray matter. They are named after their physical color. So basically, if you chop off your hand, you'll notice that there's a lot of reddish color come out, right? And then you chop, then you see red flesh. If you take another organ, you take the lungs, it's also red in color. You take kidney, it's also red in color. You take the small intestine, everything, they are also red in color because they are basically supplied and surrounded by blood vessels that provide them with nutrients and oxygen. But the only organ that are not surrounded by blood vessels is the brain. The brain, when you take the brain out, the brain is not red in color. The brain is actually white or gray in color. Okay? Surprise, right? Basically, you learn about blood vessels already, so you kind of know that blood vessels is very important for you to get nutrients. Brain has its own fluid that provide them with nutrients and oxygen. So that's why the fluid is clear in color. So that's why the brain is not red in color and it has its own distinct color. Okay, so when you cut the brain, you'll notice that the inner part of the brain is white and the outer part of the brain is gray, slightly darker in color. So the white matter is inside while the gray matter is outside, which is slightly different when you look at the spinal cord. The spinal cord, when you cut the spinal cord, the gray matter is inside while the white matter is outside. So you have to take note of that. They are reversed. It's not that the gray matter is always outside and the white matter is always inside. Okay? The reason for this is because you must first understand that white matter refers to let me draw something. You know the brain cells called the neuron? Brain cells have a region where it has cell body. This is the cell body. It also has another region called the axon that is full of myelin sheath. This myelin sheath is made up of fats. And fats are what color? Yellow or white. Yeah, fats are yellow or white in color. So this, because the region here is full of fats, so the region here is white in color. So if you look at them, you look at the brain through microscope, you'll notice that this side, the side that is gray, are all the cell body. All the cell body. They are all the cell body. And then the axon will come out from the cell body like this and take up the white matter like this. Okay, so that's why it looks something like this. So all the cell body are lined outside of the brain, and the inside of the brain is mainly the axon, the extension of the cytoplasm that is full of myelin sheath. Myelin sheath, which is fat and which makes up the white matter. Okay. The spinal cord, on the other hand, the spinal cord is slightly different. If you look at the arrangement of the cell, it will be like this. Myelin sheath, myelin sheath, myelin sheath, everything. And then this one is the cell body of the sensory neuron. Cell body of the sensory neuron. And then it extends all the way here. Then this region here is connected to another cell called the relay neuron. Okay? Then the relay neuron will connect to another cell called the motor neuron over here. So you are effectively looking at 3 cells. The first cell, sensory neuron. The first cell, sensory neuron over here. This one is the sensory neuron. The second cell is the relay neuron, which is over here. The relay neuron is very short, and there's no need for myelin sheath, because myelin sheath is to speed up the transmission of the impulse, is to speed up the transmission of the messages along the neuron. And because it's very short, the movement through the relay neuron, the movement through this second neuron will be very fast. So there's no need for myelin sheath. Okay? On the other hand, the sensory neuron, which is this one, and the motor neuron, which is this one, they are very long. They're very long. So that's why they are myelin sheath to speed up the transmission of nerve impulse. Okay? So that's why here, the region here, you see, the region here is white in color. The region here is white in color. And the relay neuron don't have myelin sheath, so it's gray in color because it doesn't have myelin. Myelin is the one that gives you white in color. If you don't have white, then you become gray. Okay? So this is why the color is different. The color in the brain is slightly different than the color in the spinal cord. Always remember they are opposite of each other. And then from here, we will be learning about dorsal root ganglion. Dorsal root ganglion is a bulge around the spinal cord. So if I can draw the spinal cord, it will look something like this. This is the brain. This is the spinal cord. The spinal cord, there are nerves coming out of the spinal cord. So there will be one nerve, then another nerve, and then they join. And then they split again, like this. They join, and then they split again like this. So there is a bulge over here, this region here. There is a bulge over here. This bulge means some swollen matter. This swollen matter will contain the sensory neuron. Okay? This bulge here will contain the sensory neuron's cell body. Okay? Because the cell, the so-called the sensory neuron is slightly different from relay neuron. Relay neuron has cell body, which is at the extreme starting end of the cell. Motor neuron also same, extreme starting end, but the difference will be it will be longer, and it has myelin sheath. Okay, sensory neuron start its journey through the receptor, and then the receptor will send information, and the cell body is right in the middle before it ends. So if you look closely, the cell body of the sensory neuron is in the middle. So if I can complete this sensory neuron, then the sensory neuron will look like this. So this is the starting end. The starting end contains the receptor, And then the nerve impulse will transfer along the sensory neuron. And then after that, it will pass through the cell body. And then it will transfer along the axon. And finally, it will transfer to the relay neuron, which is over here. Okay? Okay? Is it clear? And then the cell body is here. The cell body of the relay neuron is here. The cell body of the motor neuron will be here also. As I said, the cell body don't have myelin sheath. So the cell body will not be white. If it's not white, then it will be gray. So here, this region here, this cell body of the relay neuron will be in the gray matter. And then the cell body of the motor neuron will also be in the gray matter. Then the axon of the motor neuron will be in the white matter. Okay? Okay? So let's come back to this dorsal root ganglion. The dorsal root ganglion is very popular. They like to ask dorsal root ganglion. What's dorsal root ganglion? And then the same thing happens to hepatic portal vein. They like to ask about hepatic portal vein because it is very special. Just like in nervous system, dorsal root ganglion is very special. So they will ask about it. So what's dorsal root ganglion? Dorsal root ganglion is the location in the dorsal root. Just in case you are asking me what is dorsal root. So yeah, let me change the color. Okay, dorsal root. This one is the dorsal root. This one is the dorsal root. The one at the bottom is the ventral root. So there are two roots. Just in case you don't understand what does root mean, you know, the root of the plant, the root of the plant, the main root of the plant, and then there are small roots coming out. So because they look like the roots of the plant, like this, coming out of the spinal cord, they call it root. They call it root. The nerve that come out of the spinal cord looks like the plant's root. So they call it the root. Okay? R-O-O-T, root. And we have two sides, the dorsal side and the ventral side. So dorsal and ventral is a new term for you. So this one is the dorsal and ventral. Just imagine if you are a fish. If you are a fish like this, where is the stomach of the fish? Where's the stomach of the fish?
What? The bottom?
The bottom lah. Yeah, here. Very good. I thought you want to say here. The stomach of the fish is over here. Okay? So remember, where the stomach region is always called the ventral. The one that have backbone, that one that is not facing the stomach is called dorsal. So just imagine a human were to lie down. A human lie down like this. Okay? Lie down like this. So where's the stomach?
Wait, how is
Yeah, sorry. Where's the stomach? This is the eye. Where's the stomach?
the bottom?
Yeah, the bottom also. Over here. So this part is the ventral. This part is dorsal. Okay? And then let's connect this to the spinal cord. So if I have a spinal cord like this, yeah, spinal cord. Okay. Why? Okay, if I have spinal cord like this, the spinal cord like this, this is the spinal cord, this one, and then there will be root coming out. The root come out from the top and the root that come out from the bottom. the root that come out from the top facing the dorsal side is called the dorsal root. Okay? And then the one that's facing the stomach is called the ventral root. So you imagine, if you look at this diagram, can you imagine now? The person is like this. This one, the person is like this. And then you are bending down, and then you cut, and then you see. It will look like this. Okay? This one you cut, this one will be, the dorsal root will come out at the top, dorsal root, then the ventral root will go down facing the tongue. Okay? So that will be the dorsal root and ventral root. And the ganglion, the bulge, happens to be at the dorsal root. So we call it the dorsal root ganglion. So the dorsal root ganglion is a location where the sensory neuron's cell body is found. Okay? Okay? Very special. This one, dorsal root ganglion, or if you must remember. Okay. That will be the dorsal root ganglion. Spinal cord. The spinal cord is a bundle of nerve tissue which is located in the vertebral column. That is the backbone. The spinal cord is protected by the backbone. If you look closely here, this is the spinal cord. This is the yellow one is the spinal cord. The brown one is actually your backbone. Okay? Your backbone basically have only one sole purpose. That's to protect the spinal cord. So if you are involved in an accident where you injured your backbone, very likely your spinal cord will be injured also. And depends on the severity. You are either paralyzed from waist down, or maybe you're paralyzed from neck down. Because your spinal cord, your brain is the one that controls everything. So if the spine, the brain send messages through the spinal cord. So if the spinal cord is damaged, your brain is still okay. Your brain is not damaged. Your spinal cord is damaged. The brain cannot send messages to your hand or leg. So that's why it becomes paralyzed. Cannot move already. Okay? So the brain and the spinal cord is very, very important. So that's why the brain is protected by the skull, while the spinal cord is protected by the backbone. The rest of our body don't really have protection. Okay? The central canal runs through the spinal cord, carrying the cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, just now I was telling you that the blood, there's no blood vessels and there's no blood in the nervous system. The fluid that carry nutrients and oxygen is called the cerebrospinal fluid. They will deliver nutrients and cushion the spinal cord from physical shock. Okay? So this is another view. Here I will magnify it. Here you can see. Okay? This is the dendron of the sensory neuron, and then this is the cell body of the sensory neuron, which is found in dorsal root ganglion. And then this is the axon of the sensory neuron. And then this is the interneuron. Interneuron is another name for relay neuron. So the relay neuron will connect from here to the motor neuron. Then the motor neuron comes out from here and go towards the muscles and everything. Got it? Can? I'll make it smaller. Okay, so the parts and structure, I already tell you just now. You can go and read up on your own. And finally, the nerve. A nerve is a bundle of nerve fiber enclosed in a sheet of connective tissue. A nerve may contain only the dendrons of sensory neuron, only the axon. Okay, from my experience, all this one is not important. They won't ask you, a nerve contain what? No, no need. This one is just some terms. Okay. The nervous system helps to coordinate the bodily function of in the following way. When a receptor detects a stimulus, it will generate nerve impulse, which travels along the sensory neuron. And the sensory neuron will then transmit the nerve impulse to the relay neuron. The relay neuron will be found in the brain or spinal cord. The brain or spinal cord receive the impulse and then decide which effector needs to react to the stimulus. And then it will send nerve impulse to the respective motor neuron to connect to the appropriate effector. Just in case you forget what is the effector, effector is either a muscle or a gland that will provide a response to the stimulus. Like for example, I poke you with a toothpick. Poking is the stimulus. Whatever that happened in your nerve later, by the time you move away, your movement away from the toothpick will be your response. Okay, the muscle will be the effector. The muscle will initiate the response. The muscle will decide. The muscle will contract so that you will move away. So the muscle is the effector and the moving away is the response. Okay, can? So it then sends a nerve impulse. Okay, if the nerve impulse comes from the brain, one after another relay neurons are stimulated in the brain and then in the spinal cord before reaching the intended motor neuron. So once the effector receives the nerve impulse, it will respond to the initial stimulus. So basically it's like this. The stimulus will be detected by the receptor. Receptor will generate impulse that flow across the sensory neuron. And then the sensory neuron will send impulse through the relay neuron, which is part of the central nervous system. That is the CNS. So sensory neuron here, then relay neuron, and then motor neuron, and then effector, and then your response. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at reflex action. Oh, wait, here still got something. Okay, damages to the sensory neuron will result in the inability of the relay neuron to sense the stimulus. Damages to the motor neuron will result in the inability of the effector to respond to the stimulus, although the brain can send the stimulus. So this one looks like a lot of words, so I will simplify it for you guys. It's saying that like this, if I have a receptor and then the sensory neuron and then the relay neuron and then the motor neuron, which then goes to the muscle like this. So in order for everything to be to work well, everything must be connected. It's like a wire like that. If one of the wire is damaged, then there will be some consequence. So everything must move from here, 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 and then you move, then you will have your response like that. But what if I have a damage along the sensory neuron like this? I have a damage here. The information will flow like this. Information will flow, and then when it comes here, it will stop. Because there's a damage here, there will be no flowing or transmission of nerve impulse to the brain or the muscle. So your brain, say for example, I prick you, your brain will not feel the pain. You won't feel the pain because your brain cannot decipher the pain because the nerve impulse never passed to your brain. You won't feel any pain and you also won't move away from the pain because the effector didn't receive any information. The information just flow, and stop here. The information never flow to the muscle. How to move away? Cannot move away. Got it? Okay. Another scenario. Yeah. I have a damage along the motor neuron. So the information will flow like this. Information will flow. Because it passed through the relay neuron, it will be able to go to the brain. So you will feel the pain. But then the information, when it passed through here, it will stop. So it never go to the muscle. So this is a very bad scenario now. You will feel the pain, but you doesn't move away from it. So you'll be like, oh, so pain. Okay. Yeah. So there will be another instant where the damage is in the spinal cord. The damage is here. So what happened is you will flow information, but it doesn't flow to the brain. So your brain don't detect pain. No pain, and you will respond to it. You will move away from the pain. But your brain don't feel the pain. So this is the best scenario. You don't feel the pain, and you move away from the danger. Okay? There are three ways. There are three damages. One is damage along the sensory neuron. One is damage along the relay neuron. One is damage along the motor neuron. All will give different scenario. Give different consequence. Okay? Then lastly, we'll take a look at reflex action. A reflex action is an immediate response to a specific stimulus without conscious control, and it does not normally pass through the brain for decision making. It is a near immediate autonomic response. A reflex action is like this. You can imagine someone suddenly prick you with something sharp. You will jerk from it without thinking about it, without consciously deciding to move away from it. This is a type of reflex. This is a type of action where it is automatic, without conscious control. It's automatic, it's built in you already. So like a small baby, you go and prick the small baby, the small baby will also move away from it. You don't have to learn it. It's automatic. It's built in you already. Okay? Without conscious control, it does not normally pass through the brain for decision making. So the brain do not decide what to do with. So just in case you don't understand what does decision making means, decision making is like, example, I were to touch your hand. Then you will be processing it, right? Just now you were processing it. Oh, how should I respond? Should I stay still? Should I move away? Should I touch her hand back? Or something like that. That one is decision making. Okay? Because I never prick you. If I prick you and there is pain, then your reflex action will be activated. Okay. But if I were to touch you, touch your hand, touch your leg, touch your thigh, then you'll be like, oh my god, what's this? Then you'll be like, decision making. Oh, what should I do? Should I scream or what? Okay? That one is decision making. So reflex action, there is no decision making. The brain don't decide what to do. It's automatic already. It's automatically you will move away from it. Okay, just like when you touch a hot pan. When you touch a hot pan, you never tell yourself to move away from the hot pan, right? You only tell yourself to touch the pan. That's what pan, P-A-N, hot pan. Okay, not the pen that you write. Okay, hot pan. You touch, then automatically you move away from it because it's very hot. But you never tell your hand to move away from it. That one is automatic. Okay? Hence, a reflex action is without conscious control, while voluntary action is conscious control. Voluntary action is like I voluntarily move my hand here. I voluntarily go and take this one. I voluntarily close the camera like this. Voluntarily. Okay? Reflex action is non-voluntary, meaning you cannot decide what to do with it. It's automatic. Okay? The decision making by the brain is bypassed to ensure that the response is immediate. Immediate response is needed to protect the organism from physical injury. Like for example, if you were to touch the hot pan, the decision has to be fast. The response has to be fast, or else if you were to touch the hot pan and the impulse sent to the brain, what to do with it? By the time you realize it's very hot and it's dangerous and I should move my hand away from it and send the impulse back, you have already burned your finger. Okay, your finger has exposed to the hot item for more than 1 second. Reflex action is lesser than 1 second. So you touch it, oh. So that is why we want to bypass the brain so that the response will be very fast. Okay? So these are some of the involuntary action and voluntary action that you can see. And then difference between reflex action and voluntary action. Reflex action is automatic, no conscious thought. Voluntary action is conscious, there's conscious thought. Reflex action is very immediate response. Voluntary action take a longer response time because you need to think. Reflex action is a specific response to a specific stimulus. Meaning specific hot object, when you touch, you always jerk away from it. That is the only one response you can have. You cannot like jerk towards it. No, cannot. You always jerk away from it. You cannot jerk towards it. It doesn't have a choice. There's only one. There's only one action from it. There's no other action. Or you move left, right, cannot. You always move towards yourself like this. Okay? Voluntary action is always initiated in the brain. Okay? Reflex action involves receptor and sensory neuron. Voluntary action may or may not have receptor or sensory neuron because it may start in the brain. So when it starts in the brain, that means the impulse is generated in the relay neuron and sent to the motor neuron. There is no receptor, there's no sensory because there is no stimulus. Okay? May or may not. Sometimes, like example, when I were to touch your hand, you would have sensed it through your sensory neuron. And then your voluntary action would have started from the sensory neuron. So that one is may. May not will be when the thinking started in your brain. Like for example, no one touched me, no stimulus. But I suddenly want to move towards the water bottle. This one doesn't involve receptor or sensory neuron. Okay? Can? Okay, these are other examples of spinal reflex and cranial reflex. You can take a look on your own. Okay, so then we have reflex arc. Reflex arc is a pathway, a neural pathway where the nerve impulse travel from the receptor to the effector. So they refer to a physical thing. Reflex arc refers to the pathway, the physical pathway that is taken by the nerve impulse. So example, there are neurons here, neurons here. There's also another neuron here that go to the brain. Okay, reflex arc will be the pathway where the nerve impulse is transmitted. That is from the receptor like this. So this is the reflex arc. Okay, it never passes through the brain for decision making, And the pathway is the shortest pathway, the shortest possible pathway. The reflex arc is the neural pathway along which the nerve impulse travels from the receptor to the effector during a reflex action. In this pathway, there are sensory neuron, relay neuron, and motor neuron. Okay, so neurons in the reflex arc will be sensory neuron, relay neuron, and motor neuron. Okay, the different neurons involved in the reflex arc are connected via synapses, and they are found in the gray matter of the spinal cord. Okay, okay. So take note, there are a lot of nerve. There are a lot of nerve and there are a lot of pathway. Just like there are a lot of roads around, and your pathway from home to the tuition center is called the reflex arc. The journey that you, the location and direction that you take from your home to this tuition center, that is the only pathway that you take. That will be of course, that will be the shortest pathway. Like you don't go long cut and round, then come back, right? That will be the shortest pathway. So shortest pathway. It doesn't pass through some other long pathway and then decided to come back in a loop. No. So this is not reflex arc. The reflex arc is the shortest pathway from the receptor to the effector. Okay? Okay? Yeah. I think that's it. That is all. We still have the monosynaptic reflex arc and polysynaptic reflex arc is no longer in the syllabus. Then finally the spinal reflex. Okay, spinal reflex here. You can take a look, and then we have number 1, stimulus is the prick at the pain receptor. Nerve impulse is generated, then the nerve impulse will move along the sensory neuron, then it will be transmitted across the synapse to the relay neuron, and then it will be transmitted across the synapse to the motor neuron, and finally it will reach the effector, that is the muscle, and then you will have your response, that is move the hand withdraw suddenly. Okay, so this is the spinal reflex. Okay, that's all. We will stop here. Do you have any question?